Hello everybody, this is Serpent, and welcome back to another episode in Minecraft. As you can see, I've been working a little bit on my on my previous pathetic prototype. It is now quite large and a little bit impressive, I might if I do venture so far as to say so. So if you're unfamiliar with this, haven't watched the last video, it's a menu-based storage system. Except that one didn't do any storage. This one actually does. So let me show you around it really quickly here. Well, maybe not that quickly, but let me show you around it anyway. So this is the main menu here, and you can see we've got wood-related, flowers, redstone dice, slabs, basically just a bunch of stuff that I put in that has different aspects to it. So basically categories. I wanted categories, so I found them. And this is brewing, if you're wondering. Not quite clear on that one. So if we toss one of these items, if we select it by tossing it, then say I want some concrete. So the menu goes away, the outgoing item light turns on, and now we wait for that to take effect. And when it does, we should start seeing an incoming menu light pop up. Yep, incoming menu. And while we wait for that, the light here, this is the operation light. It flashes every time an operation starts or finishes. So when that turns on, it turns on. When that turns off, it turns on. So anyway, we have our second menu here, and I'm going to go for some green concrete. So this menu will now disappear, as one would expect. Outgoing light turns on, and once stuff happens, we should get an incoming box light. Yep. And if we look over here, indeed you can see that there is a box whizzing towards its destination right here. So this has our green concrete in it. You can add stuff or take it out, but when you're done, you push the button to return it, and outgoing item turns on. Where's that outgoing item? And you might be able to see. Nope, it's too hard to see. But the box goes down the same path and finds its way to the correct location. So now we got our main menu back. That's what the clicking is. Our main menu is being dispensed, and incoming menu light, operation of course, and here's our menu. I should note, by the way, operation turns on when any of these operations start or finish. So it's just a doing something light, basically. But you may have noticed that in that previous menu, we had a glass pane, and indeed in the main menu we had a glass pane. So what that is it's a return to main menu button. So let me show you that when it happens. While we're waiting, oh, never mind. It's coming in. So, yeah, main menu right here. We can toss that, and it'll return us to the main menu, as one would expect. And indeed, you can hear it being dispensed. So, a little bit more on this. When an item isn't collected by any of the filters, say you, oh look, I want to toss this green piece of whatever, but instead, oh look, there goes the piston. That's my favorite piston. I want it back. See, it'll be returned to you, and the the incoming reject turns on. And once once it's gotten here, the piston shows up in the reject chest. So don't worry about tossing things that don't belong in. All it will do is, well, it'll empty the menu still, but it'll, you won't lose your item. And to reset the menu, you can push the button. This is just full of main menu items. So that's pretty much, that's a lot of the things I wanted to show you. Unfortunately, the items that are used for the menu have to be supplied and aren't refilled automatically. That's really the main flaw with this thing, because I just couldn't fit it into the redstone wiring. I wanted things to be as small as possible because every menu you make is 5 blocks of backwards space, and that takes time for the item to travel through. So smaller is much better. So instead, the used icons are simply delivered down into this chest, or this chest tree, and you can take them out and put them back in, because I do have walkways, I do have access ports for things. Anyway, that's most of it. Now I did also want to show you a couple other things. The Shulker box dispenser, Shulker box system is more flexible than it may have seemed there. So you can, if you want, you can take a Shulker box out and not return it to the system, or you can add the Shulker box to the system without breaking things. So let me just show you that. I'll get some orange going. Also, you can toss things before the items are finished with their departure, but if you do so, then you might get a couple more items when the next one shows up. Hold on, what's going on here? One moment. Ah, never mind. That was a bud power issue because this wasn't a slab, so it's fixed now. And the menu still isn't broken, but like I was saying earlier, if you do select something before the menu is done escaping, then you run the risk of getting items that don't belong in the menu you select when it does come in. So just don't select those and you'll be fine. And even if you do, it'll just return into the reject chest, and you can press the button to go back to the main menu. Anyway, so let's try that again, but without the without the bud powering issue. Basically, I'm just calling over a chest, a Shulker box, so that we can take it out and not put it back. And I'll show you what happens then. Am I getting my incoming menu? Or is something still broken? Aha. So the problem this time was with my having updated to a new snapshot. So I have updated to a new snapshot. It's the one that came out today. I don't know what it's called, but it probably has 16s, W's, and A's. Or, I mean, 19s, W's, and A's. So yeah, anyway. The problem was just that the items behave a little bit differently in water, and they were making it underneath the hopper there before they could float up, so they were just getting caught there. Anyway, moving on though, I can finally show you what I wanted to show you. Basically, the reason this is kind of cool is that when you take the Shulker box out of the system and it's stored here temporarily for your use, you push the button to send it back, but the reason it gets there is because one of these slots that you can see where the redstone blocks are is out of place when that happens. So let me show you what that looks like. Oh, apparently other problems were caused by the snapshot update. But anyway, you can see that these two are up. That means the slot is ready to be used, or ready to be returned to. So in order to turn that off, I have a trigger line that just triggers all of them. So this is our green Shulker box. Let's take it out, and you can see we have it in our inventory now. And the trigger line goes back. Everything is reset. We have a main menu selected and returned to us, and basically everything is fine and dandy. So if you want to return it to its slot, unfortunately that is a little bit less automatic because it's now long since forgotten. You could select it. It would never come, and then you could put it in the slot as if it had, and then send it as if it was all fine. But that only works if the slot was empty and you want to insert only one Shulker box. So otherwise, you run down this pathway until you find the the item frame that was deleted with the update. I put a bunch of item frames on the ground, and they had the pictures, they had the category items in them. So this is the concrete one, and all these item frames are also gone. That's swell. But yeah, we have concrete here, and you would find the right one on the wall so that you didn't have to look. But in the meantime, then you can pop it in. And then just walk back, obviously. So then those are basically all the features I want to describe. I think I already explained this just through demonstration, but outgoing item flashes when there's an item outgoing. Incoming box flashes, or not flashes, turns on. Incoming box turns on when a box is incoming. Incoming reject turns on when there's a rejected item that didn't go through any of the filters. Incoming menu turns on when a menu is incoming, and operation flashes when any of these turn on and when any of these turn off. Okay, so let me now move on to a little bit of how it works. This is a very, very complicated system, so I probably won't get into any of the nitty-gritty details. But basically, your main menu is the only different category than the other ones. These are all the same, but this one's a little weird because it's the one that everything returns to. And then there's this main menu selector filter, which I will also get to. Okay, so basically, you have your menu, and you toss an item, and it goes through the tripwire, and that triggers a mechanism which unloads the chest entirely, and then the item falls down into the water stream and goes over the series of filters. So then before that, it goes over this. This is the main menu. It detects whether it's the main menu, and if it is, then it triggers the reset mechanism for basically everything. So that resets to the main menu. So if it isn't, if it doesn't pass through that, then it will continue on down the path until it finds the selected category. See, there's a main ice path, and then the water diverts down whichever category is selected. Right now that's the main menu. So these filters detect whether or not it's any of the respective items, and if so, they will trigger, that item will return to its dropper, and the trigger mechanism will go down through these observers and through this long line of repeaters and redstone. So these repeaters will trigger whichever piston is selected. You can see that if I look down the lines. And that piston will then shove the redstone block out of the way, thus undeselecting the category. So that is, the redstone block is pushed out of the way and the category is selected. When that happens, the items are ejected and the water stream is diverted. So then you have the new menu incoming, which goes down an ice path and into the chest, and you can toss an item from that menu, and since the water is diverted, it will go down the correct path, which is a lot quicker than going over all the filters, and a lot easier to wire as well. So it will go down, find its way to the correct slot, because that's what the filters do, and it will trigger these. Now these observers shove a piston redstone block over, ejects the shulker box you want, and pushes the piston here. So that then unlocks the filter. Well, it's sort of a filter, but not really. It unlocks the hopper that the box will then be returned over. If you send an item down a path and it doesn't go over any of the filters, then it will pass through into one of these columns. The main menu column doesn't have any shulker boxes, so it's pretty simple. It just returns through the reject items. But the other ones, they they go up through the same water stream, except then over the hoppers that were then one of which hopefully is unlocked because that's the one you selected from. And then it'll go down there, and it won't go over the rejected item filter, or path. So then, how does something become relocked? Well, when it travels through this tripwire here, the observer will then send a pulse down this, which goes through these observers and shoves these pistons down. That resets all the locking, and everything is fine and dandy. Now, once that happens, this line is triggered, and this hopper thing, oh, get out of there. And this hopper thing happens. It works. So the piston shoves down, and that basically sends a pulse down the reset line, which pushes all redstone blocks back, and then activates the main menu reset block, redstone block. Sorry. Let's see. I think that's most of it. Right. If you basically all the lights are just redstone wires off the paths. So if something's traveling there, then lights on. Pretty simple there. Now, if you take a shulker box and don't give it back, that's pushing this button. So that'll send a pulse down the reset line of all the locking of shulker box hoppers. And then that'll also send a pulse into the main reset line of all the selection logic. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said earlier, there are paths to things. I showed off a path to the concrete storage area, but you don't have to go to the storage. You could, if you're making a new menu, then you would want to access this for putting stuff in, obviously. But also you want to access the filters, which you can do. It's possible. And you can access a little lower down the droppers that store the items. So that's how you refill. You would go through and chuck more items in, as I have done during testing. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you wanted to make a new category or extend a category, then you would basically just copy a new chunk of this over 5 blocks, place it down. You would have to add a new selection mechanism, a new selection line, which would end up adding a filter to the main menu and a new item. So that would extend this out 1 block. And that's the only trouble with expanding this thing, really. Because almost all of this was purposefully made so that you could expand it as easily as possible. But unfortunately, these reset lines, or reject lines, have to be at the end of the path, and that means you have to move them if you expand. So expand in chunks. It's not particularly difficult to move one of these reset lines. They're fairly simple reject lines. They're fairly simple objects, but if you had to do so every single day or something, it would get very annoying very quickly. And the same really goes for these other ones, these other subcategories, or just categories rather, categories instead of the main menu. If you wanted to expand one of these, then you could take some of this, basically just a new filter, new trigger mechanisms for things, and then you would have to extend this out 1 block, which would be a pain, but not a giant pain. Best to do that when you first make the thing, in other words. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to show you, pretty much all there is to say. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. This is just my array of items. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I shall see you in the next one. Oh yeah, I'll probably provide a world download at some point when I can get around to it, for those of you who want to play with it but not build it. Right, also, this being so impractical and giant, I don't think I'll be doing a tutorial unless a lot of people ask me to. So Yeah. Anyway, that's about all for today. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I shall see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.